Hello again to another Agakala React, and today we will be watching how China's perfect geography created an empire from Learn Chinese Now. So, just jump in your channel, and I'm kind of interested because the Chinese empire, Chinese history is very, very long, like thousands of years, so yeah, that must be something.
China today is the world's third largest country, with the second largest population. But more importantly, China is generally recognized as having the longest period of one continuous civilization of any country in the world, 5,000 years, with great dynasties like the Han, Tang, Ming, and Qing gracing its lands. And a large reason why Chinese civilization has been able to thrive for so long is the geography of the region. China proper is shielded by almost impassable mountains and two deserts on its western side. The highlands of the Mongolian steppe in the north, more mountains and dense jungles in the south, and the Pacific Ocean to the east. And these conditions protected Chinese civilization throughout the ages, enabling it to flourish. So in this video, we are going to explore how China's perfect geography created an empire. This is the Central Plains, or Zhongyuan in Chinese. Its fertile lands have served as the cradle of Chinese civilization since the Xia dynasty almost 5,000 years ago. And if you extend the area from the Central Plains out to cover the entire flat area from Hangzhou to Beijing, you have the North China Plain, or Huabei Pingyuan, an area of ideal farmland the size of Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky combined. Running through the North China Plain are the Yellow River, Huanghe, and the Yangtze
There's a lot
River,
of mountains.
Changjiang. Wait, why does the English translation of Changjiang also sound Chinese? Yangtze or Yangtzejiang? Well, it's thought to be a local name that Western missionaries learned when they visited Shanghai, which is situated where the Yangtze River meets the sea. The name Yang has a definite association with the area since the Yang province was one of China's 9 ancient provinces and it occupied the region around modern-day Shanghai. There's also still a city called Yangzhou on the river close to Shanghai as well. The Yangtze River is the longest river in Eurasia and the third longest river in the world. The Yellow River comes in at the second longest river in China and the 6th longest in the world. These rivers deliver ample fresh water to the North China Plain. Both rivers start on the Tibetan Plateau, which includes all of modern-day Tibet as well as most of Qinghai province. The glaciers of this plateau contain the largest reserve of fresh water outside the polar regions and supply many of the largest rivers in the world, including the Ganges in India. The Yangtze River has the 5th largest discharge of water in the world, and thus you can see why in recent times, talking purely from a tactical point of view, control of Tibet has been seen as critical to China's current rulers, the CCP. Control of Tibet means control of the water, not only for China, but for much of the fresh water of neighboring countries as well.
That's usually what it comes down to, isn't it? The power needs kind of like, it's important, like the money, the power, it's important, but you can't really live without water. Because water is a thing that we need for like everything. You can't grow any food without water. You can't farm animals without water. So control over the water is the highest thing of power, isn't it? It might not sound like it, but it is in the end. Like you can't really do much without water. So yeah. And yeah, the geography of China so far, I never really looked at it that way, that basically it's all like surrounded by something, like a natural defenses, like mountains, desert? Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that word properly. They sound to me the same. Isn't even the spelling the same? No, I'm not going to check. So anyway, this ad is kind of long, so I'll be back soon. Thank you. See you soon. Alright, we're back, and let's just jump back into the geography of China. And why is it so... Well, I kind of got the answer already, but let's keep learning more.
Due to Tibet being such a large water source, China's plains have a lot of water and fertile soil for farming. So like the Romans who invaded Britain for its fertile farmland and natural resources, other empires throughout history would certainly have seen China's Central Plains as highly desirable. But here is the beauty of China's geography. It provided the natural protection China needed to develop a rich culture and uninterrupted history. You see, for most of China's history, there has not been another highly developed empire anywhere close enough or with an easy enough route to China to pose a serious threat. The Central Plains are protected by a massive barrier of mountains. The Tibetan Plateau stands between China and the various empires that existed on the Indian subcontinent. The Tang Dynasty monk Xuanzang, the real-life person that the Tang monk in Journey to the West is based on, took 16 years to travel to India and back. Then from Tibet, the mountains extend all the way up to Mongolia and the northeast, creating difficulties for anyone coming from the west or north. Then you have two deserts, the Taklamakan and the Gobi deserts, that stand between China and Central Asia. And even if, say, the Persian army crossed that desert, they would then be faced with only a thin corridor of land through the mountains called the Hexi corridor that they would have to fight their way through to get into China. That kind of thing didn't work out too well for Persians in the past, did it?
This is where they die!
Still haven't seen that
In the
movie.
south, there are mountainous jungles that were never home to any situation that could rival China, and in the east we have the Pacific Ocean that puts a vast distance between China and the rest of the world. The closest country would have been Japan, but that was also no match and existed as a tribute state for most of China's history. Then what if India chose to invade China by sea? The two are pretty close, right? Well, maps can be deceiving, since there is no direct sea route between the two. If you wanted to sail from Calcutta to Guangzhou, the two closest large cities, that is actually a distance of 3,500 miles, same as crossing the Atlantic from Philadelphia to Liverpool, England. And the whole region was infested with pirates, and even when you got to Guangzhou, you would still be nowhere near the Central Plains. Thus, these natural defenses gave Chinese civilization breathing room to develop without constant threats from all sides. The only place that really posed a risk was the north, where the mountains were smaller and gradually blended into the steppes of Mongolia. Although earlier in China's history the northern tribes called Xiongnu were not developed enough to mount a full-scale invasion, but China still took measures to protect the empire, building the Great Wall, which started in the Qin dynasty. They also didn't position their early capitals on the Central Plains, but instead successive capitals were in this narrow corridor of land along the Wei River that flows into the Yellow River. The capital of the Qin dynasty, Xianyang, was here. The Han dynasty had their capital at Chang'an, right next to Xianyang. Then they moved it to Luoyang, closer to the Central Plains. But later on, after that, the Sui dynasty and the Tang dynasty, China's golden age, both had their capitals at Chang'an in that narrow corridor between mountain ranges. This made the capital cities easier to develop and meant that you could better amass troops to retake the Central Plains or crush a rebellion. As time went on, China expanded from the Central Plains. The Qin dynasty sent 500,000 troops down to the south and took over the region that is now Guangdong and Guangxi provinces today. During the Han dynasty, the Xiongnu in the north of China caused endless problems for the Han, especially around the Hexi corridor, which was that natural weak point, that narrow break in the mountains where armies could break into China, flanked by the Xiongnu on the north side and the Qiang people to the south. Now, the Han did have a custom of marrying off princesses to the Xiongnu chiefs and giving them gifts to keep them at bay. But in the end, they figured it would be less costly just to expand and control the entirety of the Hexi corridor themselves. So they expanded west. If you ever wonder why Gansu province is this weird shape, well, that is why, because it follows the Hexi corridor. And this corridor extended to become the route between China and Central Asia called the Silk Road. Now, the Xiongnu never did manage to take over China, but now let's talk about two times when foreign peoples in the north did manage to break in and founded their own dynasties on Chinese soil. When the Mongolians invaded China and set up the Yuan dynasty, their civilization was already way more advanced than previous threats China had faced. They did come from the north, taking advantage of mountain passes to break through the Great Wall, and they had to take out the smaller Jurchen Jin dynasty in the north, the Xia dynasty, and a few other small states before they got to the actual Song dynasty, which was the main part of the Chinese Empire and actually ruled by Han Chinese. Facing off against smaller states may have actually made it easier since these were weaker opponents, and when they finally got to the Song dynasty, they were on flat land that was easy to move on. Yet invading all of China still took the Mongols 74 years to accomplish. The interesting thing is that when the Mongols took over China, they did adopt much of Chinese culture, and in 1271 did proclaim the Da Yuan as an actual Chinese dynasty, just as Han Chinese would. Many of the Mongol emperors did learn Chinese, and the yuan is viewed by many as having what the Chinese call the Mandate of Heaven, or Tianming. Then, after the Ming Dynasty kicked out the Mongols in 1368, they got to work fixing up the Great Wall to prevent more invasions from the north, and most of the sections of the Great Wall you can see today are from the Ming Dynasty. After the Ming, another foreign force did manage to conquer China, and that was the Manchus. To put it very simply, they turned up at the Shanhai Pass, or Shanhai Guan, a narrow corridor of land between the mountains and the sea in the northeast. To give you a very simple explanation, China was experiencing internal turmoil at the time, with the gang of Li Zicheng taking over Beijing after the fall of the Ming. The Ming general Wu Sangui simply opened the doors at the Shanhai Pass and let the Manchus in to fight Li Zicheng. But then they went on to found the Qing dynasty, or Da Qing, again adopting Chinese culture, and they ruled over a final golden age in China's history before it all fell apart in 1911. During the early 20th century, the Japanese did finally rise to become stronger than China through early adoption of Western technology.
Rifle butt against his shoulder. Ute.
And they occupied basically all of the North China Plain. The nationalist government moved their capital to Chongqing. You know, that city you may have seen on TikTok where you never know if you're on the ground or not.
It looks like I'm on a normal square. The street is over there. But if we go there, now we're on the 22nd floor.
And the subways go directly through the middle of buildings? Well, Chongqing is in the Sichuan Basin, this area here, which is kind of a circle surrounded by mountains on all sides. They use that old trick again that had protected capitals like Chang'an in the past. But with modern technology, it's not as effective. The city suffered heavy bombing by the Japanese during the war, but still not a land invasion. So in conclusion, China's geography gave its civilization a head start compared to empires in other parts of the world. They could effectively develop their culture undisturbed for the first 4,000 years of development. Maybe that's what led to Chinese culture becoming so profound. It's only when we get to the Song dynasty, which began in 960 AD, that we start to see serious threats from non-Han peoples that did eventually culminate in the Mongol takeover. But the amazing thing is that every foreign ruler of China has kept most aspects of Chinese culture intact and even helped to develop Chinese culture further. China was the prize that all potential conquerors hoped for. It was the center of the known world, and whoever ruled China ruled all under heaven. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Please let us know what other topics you want us to cover.
Pretty well done. I mean, it was kind of more history, but like, you can't really talk about geography and why geography was caused of the empire lasting for so long without actually delving into history as well. And well, I learned something new as well. Did I not actually? I think I did. There. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!